Propertyology regards right now as a very exciting time for investing in Australian real estate. There are some fantastic opportunities that Propertyology can help you take advantage of before buyers re-emerge from their coronavirus cocoons. Propertyology has a national focus. Now more than ever, experience and knowledge are the most valuable currency. Propertyology has that in spades. To find out how Propertyology's multi-award-winning buyers agents can help you prosper, contact them now at propertyology.com.au.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
It is that time of the week where what's making headlines with a great Phil Tarrant from Momentum Media with his REB signed in the background. We're going to have a great conversation. How are you, Phil?
Good, mate. How you going?
I'm good. I'm fantastic. And I'm excited about this week because we're in a recession. Woo! Right. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to just start off on that because to any real estate agent or mortgage broker listening, because I've had a couple of people say to me, hey, Josh Frydenberg has confirmed we're in a recession. And I said to her, this real estate agent specifically, I said, here's the deal. You got to understand, if you're a real estate agent, if the market is booming, the vendor that you represent gets a boom price. And then that vendor then goes off and buys another property at a boom price. And you get paid because they did a deal. Now, if the market is in a slump, that person sells a house at a lower figure, but goes off and buys a house at a lower figure again, and you still do the deal. You got to get out of your head that the way that the market operates is only when it's booming, right? People actually move home so they can actually have an extra bedroom. They move home because they want to move into a school zone. They move home because they're sick and tired of living in the rat race. They move home because they busted their partner cheating and they're separating. They move home because they've got death in the family. People move home not because there's a bloody boom. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we forget that is the role. And it ain't no different to a mortgage broker. I did a session yesterday for FBAA, your good mate Peter White, and we had around 500 brokers on. And again, I just talked about, now more than ever, Phil, people are confused. People want solutions to problems. People are over agonizing. Oh, what's my interest rate? What can I do? Oh, what are the catches with that? This is a golden opportunity for both mortgage brokers and real estate agents because people have got more problems. They need problem solvers.
Absolutely. And they're the best service providers I know are problem solvers rather than problem creators. Best mortgage brokers are out there. They're doing the deals. They're getting it done. Let's remember that banks at the moment, they want to lend money. They're in the business of lending money. So if you're a good candidate for borrowing money, I'm pretty sure that a bank will give you a home loan. Now, mortgage broking will be a great conduit to making sure that's as easy, pain-free, less stressful, and you get a good rate as well. So, mortgage brokers, get out there in times of uncertainty, in times of flux, in times of misinformation, in times of distress. People, humans, they want help. They want assistance. You can be that person.
Bernard Desmond, who's won a number of awards from you and a guy I do a bit of work with, said to me, it is the best time to be a mortgage broker. So he's just done for the month that went by, he did 9 million in settled sales, right? And he said, Tom, banks are paying the customer to move their business to them. They've got incentives. It's like there's never been a better time because what's happening is a bank wants your business, they pay you the money, and then what happens is you're the customer and you think, wow, 2%, right? This is a great opportunity to actually be in that mortgage business.
Mate, the mortgage brokers I know are doing pretty well right now. And it's those mortgage brokers who are sitting there with their heads in their hands saying, oh, life's tough, life's hard, COVID this, COVID that, recession this, recession that, they're not the good mortgage brokers. And to your point, properties will transact in good times, properties will transact in bad times. And guess what? In some markets in Australia, it's boom times. In some markets in Australia, it's not boom times. There's markets all over the place. So any given time, any given market, good operators will be helping people into new homes or selling homes, and good mortgage brokers will be supporting people with mortgage finance. Simple stuff.
Now, I've got to say, Phil, yesterday, where was I coming from? Oh, that's right. I was in Double Bay. Oh, and I did an auction last night. So, that's the context. I was in Double Bay doing a training session for Billa Property, and then I had an auction at Rain and Horn, Newtown. It didn't sell. There was only one person there. It actually never really got off the ground at all. And then I got home. It's 7:30. It's cold. It's dark. I've just come a property that from an auction that hasn't sold. I've walked into the house, and the first thing I hear is my wife sitting there glued. She goes, listen in. And there's Josh Frydenberg. And he's just said, yes, I can confirm we are in recession. It was the first thing that I heard. Grabbed my attention like bad news does. We're humans. We seem to be attracted to that. And I'm listening to him, and he says, yes, this is the first time since I don't know what they said, first time in 30 years that we're in this. So it appears based on metrics, numbers, forecasting what the June quarter is going to be like, that economists officially call it a recession. What's your take on it? We are in a recession?
It's a technical recession. Well, the definition of a recession, if you're, an economic, from an economic principle, is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, i.e. the economy is going backwards. And we haven't seen that in Australia for 29 years, even through the GFC. We powered through, and growth dropped, but it didn't get us into a point of 2 negative quarters. So what the Treasurer has said is that the first quarter, so the March quarter, we went backwards, I think 0.3%. You think, wow, that's not too much, but it's still a backwards thing. And that was compounded at the front end of the quarter. So January by the devastating bushfires, and then the back end of March. So when COVID started to take hold sort of early to mid-March, we were impacted by that. So that technically put us into negative growth for the quarter. And they've gone, you know what, this June quarter is going to be negative. So let's just call it, we're in a recession. Now, okay, what does that mean? A lot of the economic commentators I'm chatting with now and reading a lot about, they're saying it's going to be a short, sharp recession, as in we're going to bounce back pretty quick from it, because a lot of those fundamentals that existed prior to COVID-19 and taking into consideration some of the bushfires, we're navigating this environment much better than what we thought it would be. I think we sort of planned for a worst case scenario, and that goes all the way from the government and their response from a health perspective, but also, going back to some of our conversations a couple of weeks ago, Tom, a lot of the banks were coming out, particularly the CBA, saying, hey, at the worst case scenario, we're going to see home values come back 30%. And their worst case scenario was pretty dire. It was, the continued impact of COVID-19, another round of infections, continued lockdowns, continued impact on the economy. I walked up from home today, Tom, to work like I do every day. Mate, I couldn't tell the difference between pre-COVID and where we are right now. People are out, people are doing stuff. People are still a bit weird. They don't want to sort of stand near each other, and that's social distancing, and that's the right thing to do. But, I think we're going to maneuver through this much better than originally thought. And the government is still being very active in terms of, driving stimulus. And we'll have a chat about in the moment this new HomeBuilder package, which was just released just then. We're in a recession. It's a technical recession. I think, and I believe, based on what I'm seeing right now and some of the actions, behaviours, attitudes of the government, we should move through it pretty quickly. It's a couple of things that we don't know. It's what's going to be happening globally and how that's going to impact our economy here. We don't know how the trade war, inverted commas, trade war with China, particularly from the US, is going to pan out, whether that's going to impact on resource sectors here or our ability to do trade with China. There's still a lot of unknowns We know whether or not we're going to get another wave of COVID infections? Nobody knows. So a lot of the ways in which we advance through the recession, our ability to come out of it, is going to be whether or not we have a rerun of COVID, another issue with COVID. And there's a lot of states now who haven't had an infection for a long time. I think Northern Territory, 33 days, ACT, 30 days. So, we've still got cases here in New South Wales, same again in Victoria. But most of the cases that we have in Sydney, for example, are locked up in a hotel somewhere, and they're all imported from overseas. So I reckon it's going to be a pretty short, sharp recession. We're in a recession right now. That again, you look at some of the numbers coming out just recently, consumer spending is up. So whole bunch of different things going on. Where we're going to land, who knows, mate? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think the difference between this one and any other one that they've made reference to, including the 91, 92 one, is that this is like, the way I see it is, you either have a car accident and you go into a coma, and that you're in a coma because of the car accident, whereas this has been a self-induced coma. There was no car accident. This was simply the government saying, you're going into a coma because it is safer to actually do that because of this COVID. But when the time is right, we will actually just take you out of that coma. And there's a big difference because there's a sense of control. In many ways, it's a self-induced one, which basically says that you can actually go into it and go out of it with more control, which are factors that you can control, right? So I think that's why when I looked at that, I mean, the average person would say, shit, economically, that's got to be the worst in like years and decades and decades. But then when you look at the backstory, hang on a second, this was done very quickly. Life was good and we've actually self-created it. So that gives me a bit of confidence because it basically says at some point, the government decides, hey, open everything up, right? And then you move a lot faster in a recovery than what most recession recoveries take. Because a lot of recession recoveries do take longer, but this one I don't think is going to be as long. But you are right. There's a lot of variables there. And, even when you hear stories today that a Qatar Airlines plane landed in Greece, which I would be leaving for Greece tomorrow if we'd stuck to the original plan, had 12 people with coronavirus on that plane when it landed in Greece. So, you got these variable factors that pop up.
Yeah. And you got to put things into sense as well or perspective. And we'll look at some of the numbers. So we contracted 0.3% for the quarter, right? It's a negative number. If you annualize that, call it 1.2% for Australia. Now, let's have a look at how some of the other developed economies are tracking, and Australia is doing extremely well. On the same basis, the same number crunching. The USA would be 5%, the UK 7.7%, Germany 8.6%, and China 6.8%. Annualized.
Okay. So what were the countries you went through there again? This is a very good economic lesson for our market.
So Australia annualized, so 0.3 contract, so keep it going, 1.2%. USA on the same basis, 5%. UK 7.7%. That's economic contraction. Germany 8.6%, and China 6.8%.
Well, that's an A+ report card. If you would turn around and say that's a spectacular results compared to those other countries that you spoke about.
Yeah, and most economists, they're saying recovery is going to be driven a lot by recovery in spending. Is pretty good at the moment. A lot of that, a lot of people were impacted out of the bushfires and then the backside of March. So these are the numbers we know now. We're already in June, right? So we're talking about numbers that come out in March. So the world's moved on quite a lot from that. It's got to be short and sharp is my call. And, I'm not an economic forecaster. I don't have an economic degree, but, I'm in the business of the media and journalism, and, I'm a curator of information. I keep my ears open and my mouth closed, and I listen to see what smart people are saying. And I think this is how we're going to navigate it.
Love property? The current Buyer's Agent of the Year and Director of Pure Property Investment, Paul Glossop, does too. And right now, he's offering you the chance to secure his best-selling book, A Surfer's Guide to Property Investing, absolutely free. Simply jump on Pure Property Investment's Facebook page, hit the message button and type Smart Property to claim your free book today.
Organisation covered today the story of the $25,000 grant, which allows you, I'm not quite sure what the name of the grant
HomeBuilder. It's called the HomeBuilder.
HomeBuilder grant. So the crux of it is that the government wants to make sure that people are spending money on renovating, adding value to their property and making it more livable. I presume there's a number of stakeholders that will get positively impacted there, including the carpenter that comes in and the painter that paints it. $25,000, bit of criteria there. As a single person, you can't be earning more than $125,000 a year, or if it's a couple, $200,000, and you can't use it to put a tennis court in, a lock-up garage, or a swimming pool. Off the top of my head, there's a few other things there. What's your take on it? Anything that's a grant, obviously on the surface, is a good thing.
Oh, look, I think government stimulus is a good thing. I think the government, by and large, has navigated COVID pretty well. And, the whole idea is putting money into the back pockets of Australians so they spend stuff, right? That's how you get the economy moving. This is still really new, the HomeBuilder grant. Look, I'm informed around the facts. There's, as policy, there's still a lot of holes in it. I'm still yet to make a really informed opinion on it. But, having just read this an hour or so ago and learned about it, I'm not too sure personally. Property investors and a lot of the people watching this right now, Tom, and listening to us on the Smart Property Investment Show, property investors don't get anything out of this, right? There's nothing at all for property investors. You need to be an owner occupier as part of this. Number two, it's means tested. So $125,000 as an individual, $200,000 as a couple. Now, when you talk about the home building side of things, it's got to be under $750,000. So, you're building a house for $750,000. You should be able to do that in most states. Sydney, you might be struggling. Where I'm sort of stuck on this is around the renovation side of things. So the renovation contract's got to be between $150,000 and $750,000, right? So the renovation. So this is not like a coat of paint and stuff. So you've got to drop at least $150,000 on the reno in order to get your 25. So $125,000 renovations, it's a pretty decent renovation. It's an extension. It's it may be a full remodeling, cosmetically knocking down walls. We're talking, a structural renovation. So it's got to be between $150,000 and $750,000, but the value of the existing property does not exceed $1.5 million. So, there's not a lot of people I know with a property under $1.5 million that have at least, that much money kicking around to do a renovation. Where are you going to pony up the funds to actually finance this renovation? You're going to have to go to the bank. Most people are going to have to go to the bank to extract this money to spend $150,000. It's not like they got $150,000 lying around. You're going to have to finance that some way in order to get back 25. Is this going to be enough to actually get this moving? Is it, they're talking about 27,000 people will probably take advantage of this particular grant. It's going to create like 1,400 jobs. They're talking about it being a tradie-led economic recovery. The devil's in the detail, mate.
I'd love to be. I was as you're speaking away, I was thinking to myself, I'd love to be a fly on a wall in some of those meetings that are being held. I can just picture Scott Morrison. But what if they want to put a pool in? No, stuff. Cross pools out. Garages, no. Garages, no. What about if they're going to just pull out the 25 and paint the kids' room? No. They're going to have to spend $150. Okay, because you got to hand it to these guys. They've had to move very, very quickly, and I can't believe that they can sit through hours and hours of modelling to work it out. And they have been. I've got to give them credit because they've moved very swiftly to make decisions along the way. But it sounds like to me this one, Homemaker, there's quite a few hoops you're going to have to get over and then probably make a decision is now a good time in our lives to put 150 grand reno? Because it sounds like it's got to be 150, is it, minimum?
At least 150 and less than 750. So the looking at the details here, Tom, this is not, I'm going to say this is not necessarily aimed at your Sydney and Melbourne locations, because purely it says, the building contract for a new home, right? The construction of a new home must be for the purpose of being a principal place of residence. So you can't do it for investment, where the property value of the house and land does not exceed $750,000. Well, that's pretty much all of Sydney gone.
Wow. Yeah.
Bro, you tell me one place that you auction or anywhere where you operate, where you can buy a brand new house on a block of land in Sydney for less than $750,000. You can get them out west, way out west. You can get them, and that's a good thing. I'm thinking about that new train line out through Rouse Hill out towards the mountains and stuff, right? Like you could probably pick up a house and land package there for maybe under 750, but this is directly targeted, I believe, and I'm not in the market. I'm not in the market beating up the government. I think the government's done a great job through COVID-19, and my hat's off to them. Governments don't always get it right. You got to give them a bit of slack sometimes, particularly when they're making policy decisions so quickly. But I reckon, to your point around, these smart people down in Canberra working this out, I reckon they're going, where can we most inject capital to support the ongoing health and driving the nation forward? And I reckon regional. A lot of this is directed at regional towns, places outside of the big capital cities, which often don't get a lot of love and the attention. So, and you sort of put this alongside with, after COVID-19, a lot of people are going to change the way in which they work. So there's got to be some deeper town planning, city planning things around this. So they're going, you know what? People don't need to be wed or tethered to the Sydney CBD now. There might be a whole bunch of people who want to go and live up in the Blue Mountains or live down in the other parts of Australia, other parts of New South Wales as an example, and they don't need to be in the office anymore. So they can go and build a new place, buy a block of land, build a new place for 750 grand. That makes sense. You're stimulating regional economies. Yeah. I get that. This is where I reckon this is the catalyst of it. They've gone 125 or 200,000 bucks for the actual a couple or a partnership. In many ways, you might be removing a lot of people out of the Sydney and Melbourne areas as a result of that. But get out to regional Australia. This is a regional Australia initiative, I reckon, and tradies out there, builders out there who are trying to drive local economies. If you've got tradies in the town building houses in some of these regional locations, Orange, Bathurst, wherever it is, that's money in their back pocket, and that's money that's going to go into other people's back pockets. So this is the driver of it. So on that basis, I sort of get it.
So I'm going to, look, I think, Phil, watering a garden is what the Australian government is doing at the moment. They're trying to water a garden, and I think it's not easy to water a garden evenly. We've seen that with even JobKeeper, an attempt to actually put something in place. And I mean, look, and that's a subject that we might touch on next week, because I believe there is a bit of a microscope on the government. They are reviewing that JobKeeper, because in the process, you're always going to have people that probably shouldn't get something because their business has been robust enough, but they've qualified because for 1 month they had a bad month, and then they're making fistfuls of money. Hypothetically speaking, you could look at someone, and I know this hasn't happened, but a company like Xero, right? Zoom, right? Hypothetically, they may have had a poor month the first month, but then they made fistfuls of money for the next 5 months, and they would have got JobKeeper. They might have actually broken their targets by 500%, which I think they have. I think the amount of users of Zoom went up from 2 million to 150 million off the top of my head in a very short period of time. But I think when you water a garden, it's very difficult to actually water it evenly, and there's always going to be people that benefit that shouldn't, and others that should get more of it don't. But I think that's going to come up, Phil, even more so, because Josh Frydenberg has indicated that they are looking at that. They're looking at JobKeeper again to look at, how it's working, and they're going to review the whole process.
Look, again, this is, and I hate the term, and the first time I've used it, unprecedented times, right? Like what the government's done and the way it's reacted in light of COVID and tackling the health issue as it did, we're the lucky country, right? Inverted commas. And for those of you who might not be familiar with that term or are familiar with the term, it was actually a bit of a pot shot of Australia back when that was originally written, in that, the lucky country, as in what a great place to live, is that we just get away with stuff sometimes. We're just a bit lucky, a bit jammy, and the thesis of the lucky country was, we don't really have that many talented people, but we're really lucky just to have good stuff that we can sell and therefore be rich. So, when you look at COVID-19, how lucky are we? We've got the distance, we've got the way our population's structured, the big gaps between our capital cities, the sparseness of the nation. We've been pretty lucky because of COVID, and that's a good thing. And that's one of the products of being Australia and being the lucky country. But it's also the product of how the government reacted with the information it had at a point in time, a point in crisis, and they acted, they cut hard. And I would prefer for them to do that and then build up from that, rather than go the other way of just a death by 1,000 cuts. So, they've put these stimulus packages in pretty quickly. They've been reactive and responsive, and they've shored up at least sentiments towards growth and prosperity for Australia moving forward through what is a difficult time. They got the numbers wrong on it. They over forecast, right? It's only half of what they expected. You know what? That's a good thing. I'm happier it's like that rather than the other way around. So they've got all this cash now that they're working out what to do with it. They're going to pump some of this money into HomeBuilder probably. I think JobKeeper, what a great initiative to move that quickly. Always devil in the details. They didn't get the policy right. They might not have communicated and informed everyone as well as they could have originally, but they were sort of making it up as they went along, right? And they've shifted the whole framework now within the Australian Tax Office to be able to accommodate,
with our own businesses
subsidies.
Yeah, I mean, and I've got to tell you, I totally understand it. I mean, I'm sure your business and the work that I do and other businesses, man, no plan survives collision with reality. I do think people make things up as they go. Yeah. I think you react, right? I mean, it's not like you have some spreadsheet and you stick to the spreadsheet that you wrote out in 2012 and say, there's our vision, that's our business. It doesn't work that way. Like, you had no idea that you would be getting your REB 2020 awards that were going to be held in the way that they're being held. We had no idea that was going to be happening. And I know that we're going to reveal some of the finalists next week. Or more of the finalists next week. We're going to reveal them. We're going to touch on next week also, Phil, on the recession and what the chatter is about real estate. I also want to ask you, America's in a mess, isn't it? I mean, every day.
Yeah, God. Yeah, I watched a documentary the other week. It was an older documentary. It was around Rodney King, so the LA riots back in the early 90s. And in this documentary, they actually referred back to some race riots. I can't remember exactly where it was in America in the 60s. And the guy they interviewed was pretty much saying, this is not going to go away. This is it's going to be an ongoing issue into the future. Fast forward into the LA riots with Rodney King in the 90s, and exactly the same. You could watch those pictures there in 92 and how people reacted and responded to 2020. And it's pretty much, it's a carbon copy. It's a carbon copy. There is an undertone, and this podcast is supposed to be about property and finance, Tom. It's not about race relations in America, but there is an undertow of immense dissatisfaction in America, and we're seeing it explode right now. And the double whammy, triple whammy of COVID-19, number one, number two, America in its contested part of the world, particularly with Indo-Pacific and particularly with China, and now number three, these riots, and this just isn't localized to LA this time. This is right across America, and there's a huge impact. I'm watching it. It's really, really sad to see, but you can see how angry people are about injustice, and you can see how angry people are about the need for equality, and this is going to be a theme for the rest of our life, and a theme for generations into the future. I thought as a nation here in Australia, and I thought as a globe, that we're sort of a lot more conscious about it all, and everyone's trying their best, but obviously there's a lot more needs doing, mate.
Worried about making the wrong choice with your next investment? You're not alone. If you truly want to become the master of your own lifestyle design through real estate, then you need to speak with Buyers Agents, who'll help you acquire cash flow positive properties in high growth areas with value add potential, so you can create more freedom in your life. Visit dashdot.com.au/SPI.
I think with everything that's going on, the economics, we've just gone through the state of the economies, where you've made that reference to those 5 or 6 European and US economies. When we're looking at how people are behaving, when we're looking at what's going on here, we're seeing pubs, gyms are opening. You'll be able to go get a nice, strong, hard massage as of this week. People have been doing that. Restaurants, all that. We've got to say overall, hey, we didn't expect this March, April, May, but I tell you one thing, Australia's passing with flying colours versus the rest of the world.
Mate, it's great to be Australian, Tom. It's great to be part of this as well, and you've probably seen it as well, back to our business here. We're one of the bigger events companies in Australia around business events. It's who would have thought this time last year that we'd be in this situation right now. But much like the best real estate agents I know, Tom, you've got to keep your ears open. You've got to keep your mind open. You've got to be reactive and responsive, and always think about what the outcome is. And, there's businesses in this environment, that are thriving. And I'd like to think that we're definitely one of them. And we like to lead the way and do what we do. And we're very conscious about, us as an organization, but it's also the communities and connectivity that we have. We have a huge responsibility here to set our editorial or content agenda, because in many ways we shape and influence the way in which people think about stuff. And, with REB, for example, we could be the merchants of doom and gloom, but we've decided editorially not to take that approach. And we sort of created a bit of a manifesto here and communicated internally within the business and our content teams at the very start of COVID, and said, this is how, as an organization, we're going to navigate this. And this is how, because of the responsibility we have to our audiences, we're going to deliver the information that they need to use to make more informed business decisions. And we've stayed true to that the whole way through. We haven't been pulled into any of the stupidity around it. And I like to think that we've played our part, mate.
Now, good stuff. Standing up against clickbaiting. And I reckon that's a good thing to do, because you're an important stakeholder in the business. We know REB is very important in the way agents compare themselves on how successful they are across Australia. So I look forward to actually decoding some of these winners or nominations next week.
Yeah, well, there's a lot coming out. So REB Awards, it was one of it. We haven't even gone, and Tom, into any of our stories here, but we covered off the recession, obviously, and the home builder. And this is a great thing about us doing this every single week, mate. We get to talk about what's making headlines. We're literally an hour. We're probably one of the first people to have a commentary around the home builder. Myself and you doing this right now, but
I actually, to be honest with you, I enjoy having this yarn, because I get educated along the way, because I know I've got access to your editorial team, and you've just informed me, because at around 5 o'clock today, I'm seeing 3 other people, and I'll be the expert at the table telling them on how Homemaker works. I'll be telling them that it's actually being built for regional Australia. I'll be telling them that don't go off getting quotes on getting a synthetic tennis court on your house. I'll be the one. I'll be the expert today at 5 o'clock, because I got the information from you.
There you go, mate. This is the way it works. I got the information from somewhere else, and mate, as I said before, I don't claim to be knowledgeable about anything, but I'm pretty good at listening to the people and hearing what they say. So, if you want to use me as a secondary curator of stuff, But yeah, REB Awards, Tom. We're going to chat about it today. It was one of the big stories that we had. This is the REB Awards. Go and check it out. rebawards.com.au, which we're doing in partnership with List Ready. We've just been announcing all the different finalists over the last couple of weeks, and we will do it into the future. One of the biggest stories we had this week was we announced all the Metropolitan finalists. So we've had more submissions for the REB Awards this year than any year in its history. And this is one of the hotly contested categories is Metropolitan sales agents. So go and check it out. There's lots of good things happening there, mate.
Fantastic. We'll catch up and look at who some of these people are on next week's show. We'll have a touch and look at, I think we're going to be able to look at some of the finalists and just have a bit of chit chat, and also just have a look at any other stimulus that's coming out of the government, because it's good to jump on them straight away and work out what's relevant for what person.
Good one, mate. Thanks for your time today.
Have a great week.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Propertyology regards right now as a very exciting time for investing in Australian real estate. There are some fantastic opportunities that Propertyology can help you take advantage of before buyers re-emerge from their coronavirus cocoons. Propertyology has a national focus. Now more than ever, experience and knowledge are the most valuable currency. Propertyology has that in spades. To find out how Propertyology's multi-award-winning buyers agents can help you prosper, contact them now at propertyology.com.au.